Welcome back on Transfer Deadline Day. Let's head to Brighton and a possible departure for one of their players. Chris Nightingale is at Brighton's training ground for us. Morning, Chris. What can you tell us about the future of Matt O'Reilly?
Yeah, morning, Matt. It's a disappointing one for Brighton fans, this. He only joined the club last summer, but looks to be on his way out of the club already. He's on his way to Marseille to link up with the former Brighton head coach, Roberto De Zerbi. He'll be having a medical there ahead of a loan move with no option to buy with the French club. So that's ongoing at the moment. There's plenty more players leaving Brighton today. Facundo Buonanotte is nearing a loan move to Chelsea. That should be confirmed shortly. In this morning, and also Julio Enciso is another one who's joining Chelsea. Maybe eventually he's going to Strasbourg. That is nearing completion as well. And another South American, Jeremy Sarmiento, is linked with Cremonese. We expect that to go through today. He'll be linking up with Jamie Vardy at his new team. And Tariq Lamptey is another one, the final one we expect to leave today. We expect that move to Fiorentina to go through this morning. The right back is still only 24 years old, joined on deadline day in January 2020, but he's also on the move. So plenty of outgoings for Brighton today. We'll be here all day to let you know when an incoming arrives.
Certainly will. Thank you very much, Chris.
Old firm rivals Rangers and Celtic may be looking to do some deadline day business after playing out a goalless draw at Ibrox yesterday. Let's join Gordon Duncan now for more. Gordon, good morning. It was not the old firm many of us were expecting, was it?
No, it was a bit of an anti-climax in the end. There was so much intrigue going into the fixture, so much negativity following both sides crashing out of the Champions League qualifiers. Russell Martin's obviously under a whole lot of pressure with banners here and chants for him to lose his job. Brendan Rodgers over at Celtic, there were sack the board chants. There's been personnel issues on both sides, so it was such an interesting build-up. And then the game was a real letdown, really, by every measurement you look at, whether it's total shots, shots on target, XG, whichever measurement you want, they were all extremely low. It was mistake-ridden, both teams giving up possession, and in the end, a 0-0 draw, probably a fair reflection. Probably based on the league table, a result which just about suits Celtic more. Russell Martin still finds his Rangers side 6 points behind and yet to pick up a win in the Premiership. So in that regard, maybe a slightly better day for Celtic, but certainly a massive anti-climax in terms of a football match.
There's so much speculation surrounding Russell Martin's future as Rangers boss, but do they need to do business regardless of who's in charge?
Well, he said after the game yesterday he's never felt more supported. He met with Andrew Kavanagh, the chairman here, so it looks like that will be the situation going forward for at least a while. Russell Martin will keep his job, but you're right, he would expect to be pretty busy today. You look at Youssef Chermiti as the number one name, an £8 million fee for the striker to Everton. That is big money by Rangers standards, so that's certainly one to keep an eye on. We expect him to come. Kevin Thelwell, the Rangers sporting director, he of course knows him well. He signed him for Everton from Sporting Lisbon for $15 million back in 2023, so you can see the relationship there. Derek Cornelius, the Marseille defender, a Canadian international, left-sided, which Rangers probably need. We expect him to come in. And then heading in the other direction, every bit as interesting, Cyril Dessers, according to Russell Martin yesterday, has played his final game for the club. Panathinaikos look like they are leading the race for his signature. A bit more of a complex one with Nicolas Raskin though. A fan's favourite, a Belgian international, left out of the squad entirely yesterday, has been training away from the group, so it remains to be seen where he goes, if anywhere, before the end of the day.
What about Celtic, Gordon? Do you expect some movement from Brendan Rodgers' side before the window shuts?
Again, they quite simply have to be busy, really. You look at Kasper Dolberg as the number one striking target, the Anderlecht striker. Talk still ongoing with him, but he did come on for Anderlecht yesterday. But this is going to be a day of moving parts because Adam Ida, the current Celtic striker, he's been to Swansea, he's completed his medical. The fee of $6 million rising to $7 million has been agreed. Personal terms all done. However, Brendan Rodgers saying he can't leave until a replacement comes in. So that's going to be a really delicate situation for Celtic today. Celtic still looking to add more wingers as well. Sebastian Tenetke, the Hammarby winger, £4.7 million rejected so far. Celtic will probably look to go back in there. It is those attacking areas Brendan Rodgers really needs to address. Jesurun Rak-Sakyi is an interesting name as well, because Celtic have entered the race for him, the Crystal Palace winger on loan. One of the other teams in the race for him, Rangers. So that's going to be a really interesting one to keep an eye on. Both Glasgow clubs set to be busy. We'll keep you updated as the day progresses.
Thanks very much, Gordon.
Right, we've got a bit more information on Anthony now, and there is no player termination payment to Anthony from Manchester United. On Friday, it is thought that Real Betis wanted United to cover a shortfall for the remaining 2 years of his contract. Anthony is understood to be taking a pay cut to join. As we've mentioned, there's an agreement reached between the clubs for his permanent sale for a total of £21.7 million. United signed Anthony from Ajax for £86 million on this day, in fact, on 2022. So that is a £64.3 million loss for the winger. Right now, though, we're going to talk about Arsenal, because a lot's been made of their performance at Anfield on Super Sunday. Tight game, wasn't it, which they lost 1-0. Charlie, a lot of the chat off the back of it has been about how Arsenal were negative, maybe missed an opportunity there. Do you see it that way, or were they just beaten by a spectacular goal?
Beaten by a spectacular goal. You can't... Someone's got a 32-yard free kick in off the post. It's unbelievable from all angles that we've seen. But you look at it from an Arsenal point of view, they're the games that you need to go there and win or take 3 points. You've got to try and take 3 points against your title rival, really. And as
so were they a bit too negative?
No, because I think that's credit to Liverpool. I don't think you can take that away from them. But if you look at it on the other side, you think, well, you have to hit them hard. They've conceded goals, haven't they? They've conceded 4 in the last 2, so it's almost one of them, can we go and grab the opportunity? I was more surprised that Eze didn't start, because that was it. Saka was injured, Odegaard wasn't fit to start. I thought he was a one. Negative on the performance, no, but negative on Mikel Arteta's formation selection, yes, because I thought that was the one. I think he went for the safe option of starting Marino, really, if I'm honest. And that was a perfect time for him to go and express himself at Anfield away. And he's Premier League proven and he's ready. He's played the start of the season already, so match fitness is not a problem.
Yeah, well, Gary Neville, after the game, questioned Arsenal's mentality in big matches after the defeat. Do you understand where he's coming from?
I think that's always going to be over Arsenal's head, isn't it? Because they finished second for consecutive years. So I think that's one where that's not going to go anywhere soon until they get over the line. So I think it's almost... the part of Arsenal now is they've got to show it in them big games and go and dominate and grab it and be like, look, we are title favourites. This is what we're about. We've built this squad. We've trusted the manager over the years, and now it's about getting to the number 1 spot.
Well, look, defensively, Arsenal still look great. I mean, I can't remember the last time Arsenal went to Anfield and almost shut down Liverpool offensively years ago, the last time that would have happened. But do you also agree that they do have a bit of a creativity problem? They just don't quite create enough chances compared to some of the other big teams?
On the first point, that's nothing new.
Yeah.
They're so solid at the back. We've seen that for the last couple of years now. But the top end of the pitch, that's what Eze's come in for, to create that spark and add something different to themselves and try and move on. And as you look at it now, that's showing more light onto that position at the top end of the pitch. We can say, we haven't played with a number 9 for so long. That's fine. But now, how do you get the ball to the number 9? And over recent weeks, we haven't really seen it.
And when Eze did come on, because you already said that you thought he should have been in the starting lineup, when he was introduced, did you feel he made a difference in that department?
You could see they wanted to get him on the ball. You could see he's the person now that they're going to look to make something happen, and not just Saka. They're going to give him the ball and try and make something happen, see that spark. And look, he's someone now that not only are Arsenal going to look to, but Crystal Palace have looked to for the last 2-3 years, haven't they? So it's no different. So now it's for him to go and express himself and really put a stamp on that position and make the team his, really.
Yeah, so early days, isn't it? I mean, I'm not one of those that's all sort of down on how Arsenal performed in that game, but it was a typical early season tight game, wasn't it?
Yeah, big tussle, yeah.
Clearly, if Liverpool had a certain Alexander Isak playing, they might have won it by a few more, because He is on the verge of moving to Liverpool for a record fee of £125 million. Will be live to Liverpool next.
Negotiations, Liverpool have agreed a British record £125 million deal for the Newcastle striker, which could bring an epic saga to an end.
We've got both sides of the story. Pete Graves is at Newcastle for us, but we start at Liverpool's training ground and join Vinny O'Connor. Vinny, bring us up to speed, please.
Yes, well, we know that Liverpool's spending is going to continue, and again, they are spending big. They are going to pay Newcastle that flat fee of £125 million. It will be a British transfer record, obviously eclipsing the £110 million that Chelsea paid to Brighton. Sorry, £150 million it was, wasn't it, that Chelsea paid to Brighton for Moises Caicedo back in 2023. Alexander Isak himself has agreed a 6-year deal with Liverpool. He's now due to undergo a medical. That medical is due to get underway this morning as well. There was a lot of talk around Anfield actually yesterday. He was in a hotel around about 20 minutes drive away from where Liverpool were taking on Arsenal and ultimately taking 3 points in that battle of last season's top two, of course, as well. And you mentioned the fact that this has been a transfer saga throughout the summer. Of course, Liverpool having that £110 million bid for Alexander Isak rejected by Newcastle earlier in the window. Newcastle were looking for around about the £150 million mark, but obviously they have reached a compromise on the fee. Also helped by the fact that Newcastle look to be getting a striker through the door as well in terms of an ideal replacement for Alexander Isak, and that ultimately has helped this deal along as well. And we're just looking at when Alexander Isak can start really making an impact for Liverpool. Of course, he is 25 years of age. He will turn 26 next month, of course. Newcastle paid £63 million for him back in 2022 to Real Sociedad. 54 Premier League goals in 86 Premier League appearances. Only 8 of those appearances as substitute as well. But looking at what Liverpool have got coming up after this international break, well, first of all, it is Burnley away. Then it's Atletico Madrid at home in the Champions League. His first potential home game for Liverpool could come in no bigger occasion, really, than a Merseyside derby at Anfield as well. And then after that, it's Palace away, Galatasaray away, before Chelsea away at the start of October. So all gearing up very nicely for the start of Alexander Isak's Liverpool career. He has obviously still got to put pen to paper as yet, complete that medical. But of course, the set fee is £125 million, and he is set to become a Liverpool player on deadline day.
Big fee, big news. Thank you very much, Vinny.
Let's cross live to Newcastle and speak to Pete Graves. Pete, good morning. Newcastle get a British record fee, but how will Isak be remembered there?
Hi, Julia. I think, unfortunately, Isak will be remembered largely by the way he's acted this summer and not by his performances to the last couple of seasons on the pitch. A lot of disappointment up here, I think, from supporters, but also within the club, you would imagine, at the way that this has played out, with a player refusing to go on pre-season tours and refusing to play in matches, and ultimately, despite the fact that Liverpool came in with that £110 million bid a couple of months ago now, where they feel like they've stood firm and ended up getting a fee, as we said, set fee of £125 million. But as far as Newcastle United are concerned, the total package worth just north of £130 million to Newcastle United. So they're relatively happy with the fee they've ended up getting, when there was a time, maybe a few days ago, where they thought that they might not see Liverpool return to the table. But they feel that they're happy with the fee that they've got for a player who clearly didn't want to be here. He's not played in any of the opening 3 games, of course, so as far as the squad are concerned, they're not losing a player who's been playing for them. They're losing someone who's not being involved at all. And Newcastle United, by the way, remain active this morning. They now have had their sort of focus sharpened a little bit to go out and try and bring in another addition into the attacking lineup. But let's not forget, Alexander Isak aside, the club have had a fantastic window in so many ways. They've actually strengthened in every position on the football field. They brought in a new goalkeeper in Aaron Ramsdale. They brought in a new defender in Malik Chow, a new midfielder in Jacob Ramsey, and 2 new attackers in Anthony Elanga on the wing, of course, and a club record deal for highly rated German international forward, 23 years old, Nick Woltemade, who was in the stands at Elland Road at the weekend and will be fit to make his debut following the international break. They're hugely excited about the acquisition of Woltemade and feel he can achieve so much in the Premier League. 6'6" and a towering centre forward, and someone who can come in, and Eddie Howe was saying on Saturday after the game, he's got all the attributes required to be a top Premier League player. So they've had a good window already, and as things stand this morning, they remain active. We know that they've been trying to bring in another centre forward. They've had talks with Wolves over Larson, and you think Johan Wissa would probably be the one that they'll push hard for today. They've already had a bid of £40 million rejected. We saw Johan Wissa put out a statement yesterday saying he's desperate to leave Brentford. Although in Brentford are keen to keep hold of him, you just wonder whether Newcastle will go in and tempt them once again with another bid now that they know Isak is on his way to Liverpool. So it's all geared up to be a very, very busy day here on Tyneside, and as always, we'll keep you right up to date here on Sky Sports News.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, Pete. A former Premier League striker, Charlie Austin, is with us until 10 a.m. So too is our reporter, Mark McAdam. Mark, busy night for you, busy deadline day already. You broke the Isak story for us. Just give us a timeline. How did it unfold?
Well, this is a transfer that's been in the making for a number of months, really. We reported 45 days ago that Alexander Isak had said to the hierarchy at Newcastle he wants to explore the avenues of a potential departure from St James's Park over the course of this summer. He made it quite clear that he didn't see his future at Newcastle United, and therefore him and his representatives were going to explore what was out there, what was possible. The price tag was 150 million. That was a starting point as far as Newcastle were concerned, and that basically said to the footballing world, only maybe 1 or 2 clubs can actually afford this deal. Real Madrid and Liverpool. No one else really, maybe Saudi Arabian sides could afford to get to that type of cash. So straight away, it ruled out most of the footballing world. But of course, there were another set of provisos put on any potential transfer, and that was, we need a replacement. That's going to be difficult to find. And they have to get to the fee that we're comfortable with. And then obviously over the course of the days and weeks and months, as it's now been, it was, you know, we had one story about this, and Alexander Isak wasn't going to Asia. He wasn't training with the first team. He had his own separate programme. There was a family fun day at Newcastle that he wasn't involved in. Eddie Howe was doing everything he possibly could to say this is a united group, this is a strong dressing room. Come and be a part of it. This is important, this football club. Come and be a part of what we're doing and what we're going to achieve this season. But Alexander Isak remained firm in his decision that he didn't want to play for Newcastle United. And as it went on week by week, it became increasingly more likely that the chance of him being sold was going to happen. There was this big meeting on Monday at Alexander Isak's house. What was said in that meeting, we don't know. It turns out he was probably told on Monday that he was going to be sold, providing Liverpool could get to the price that they were comfortable with. Obviously, as Pete Grave mentioned there, the fact that they got in young German international 23-year-old striker Nick Woltemade was significant to allow Alexander Isak to go. And then late last night, after a few days of no contact between PIF, the owners of Newcastle, and FSG, the owners of Liverpool, it became apparent that a deal had to be done because time was running out. With less than 24 hours to go, we got confirmation that the deal had been agreed between the two parties and that Alexander Isak was free to travel to Liverpool this morning to undergo the formalities of the medical. So it's been a saga. It's been one of those transfers that we'll probably sit here and talk about in 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 10 years' time, because right now it's a Premier League record. It's a huge deal. It's 2 of the biggest clubs in the country fighting over the best striker in the world, and Liverpool have got their man. And, you know, I sat here and said 3 weeks ago, I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I think he's going to stay. Eddie Howe made it quite clear he wanted Alexander Isak at the football club. They tried to get replacements. It looked unlikely he was going to stay. But then things change, and that's the great thing about deadline day and any possible transfer. You can say one thing and be 100% certain, and then it changes within minutes. And that's why we love it so much, because it's so unpredictable.
Yeah. We're not done, by the way. We're going to come back to you in just a moment, some more Isak chat. But we've got some breaking news, because Brighton's Matt O'Reilly is understood to be travelling to France this morning for a medical with Marseille. The midfielder is set to join them on a straight loan with no option. He was left on the bench yesterday as Brighton beat Manchester City. Marseille, of course, are managed by the former Brighton head coach, Roberto De Zerbi. But going back to Isak, Mark, I'm just trying to find out what else is going on.
There's always
Breaking
something
news.
happening. You know, I'm not being rude, but just to...
You're not texting your mate,
No, Steve's definitely staying across the breaking news. I have a question for Charlie, actually.
OK, you do that and we'll follow up
just
with Mark.
about the Alexander Isak. It's overshadowed a lot of, the summer for Newcastle, especially. He's finally got his move now. Do you think this sets a precedent for how others, and we've seen Johan Wissa as well, the way he's behaved. Does this set a precedent for players?
Yeah, of course it does. Because, and I mean, it does not only for Premier League players, I think for football in this country, because if we're talking top-end players going for 125 million, British record fees, what's it stopping players going for a lot less money than that? I think that was what I was saying a couple of weeks ago. I think that's why was one of the reasons I didn't think the deal would go through, because of this reason and the way he's acted. But like Mark said, we're going to talk about a transfer for so long, could be a couple of years, 5 years, 10 years. No one's really going to, we might just say, look how the player acted. But that's almost going to be parked now. No one's going to really remember that. It's a £125 million move. He's left Newcastle and now he's going to go and play for Liverpool. That's the biggest talking point now. No one's really going to remember. If we say a couple of weeks, no one's going to remember how he acted. He's going to go and play for Liverpool and score goals.
Once he starts scoring goals,
That's it. And that was the same. If he didn't get his move, and they say, how is he going to act when he gets back? If he didn't get the move and back into Newcastle, how's Newcastle fans going to act? Well, if he starts scoring goals, no one's going to worry about it.
That's true, yeah.
OK, we'd pause that once again because we have some breaking news for you, and it concerns Burnley midfielder Florentino Luis is to have a medical in Manchester this morning ahead of a loan move from Benfica to Burnley. All other details agreed on the move for the Portugal midfielder, and Burnley are now focusing on players leaving Turf Moor.
Right, Liverpool strengthening in attack, but could they make a big addition at the back as well? Well, they've, of course, been chasing Mark Guéhi all summer. Will they get the signature of the Crystal Palace captain over the line today, though? Well, James Savundra is at Selhurst Park for us. Morning, James. Palace fans desperate for him to say. What do you reckon? Will Guéhi still be a Palace player come 7 p.m?
Matt, a very good morning to you. It's so difficult to say at this stage. How good was Mark Guéhi last night, leading Crystal Palace to victory with a brilliant strike as well? It didn't feel like farewell. Let's bear in mind Liverpool lodged a bid of around £35 million on Saturday. We understand that Crystal Palace are looking at something more towards £35 million plus £5 million in add-ons. They do not want to lose him for free next summer, but at the same time, Oliver Glasner made it very clear last night that he has to stay, and they've not been able to find a replacement in time. Plenty can change between now and that deadline at 7 p.m. But for Crystal Palace, you can understand from a business perspective why they want to get something for him to avoid him leaving for free next summer. This is the last day where they can guarantee they can get any money for him, because from January he can start speaking to foreign clubs, and there'll be plenty of foreign clubs interested in signing Mark Guéhi as a free agent next summer. It feels at this moment in time, based on what Oliver Glasner said, he's more likely to stay, but we know Steve Parrish said it does represent a problem for a player of this calibre to leave the football club for free next summer, especially as it seems unlikely he's going to sign a new contract. So at this moment in time, things remain in the balance. This is the final day where Palace can cash in on their England midfielder, or the England defender even.
Yeah. As you mentioned there, James, such a crucial player for Palace, their captain at the heart of their defence. So who could they line up to replace him at the back? Is Chelsea's Axel Disasi an option?
Well, Julia, throughout the summer they've been looking at a number of different options if Mark Guéhi was to depart the football club. They've been realistic, knowing that if his valuation was met, then they'd need to find a replacement. And Oliver Glasner spoke about needing to sign a ready-made Premier League replacement. Or Axel Disasi could be a player that fits that bill. He's in the bomb squad at Chelsea right now. He is available to move to a different club, and there's a great relationship between Crystal Palace and Chelsea. Last season, Trevor Chalobah and Ben Chilwell both left Chelsea and moved to Crystal Palace on loan, so it's definitely a deal that you could see being done if they look to bring in a defender and Mike Gay does depart. At the same time, the club are looking to wrap up a deal to sign JD Camvo. He's a defender from Toulouse, a very exciting centre-back. A number of Premier League clubs have been interested in signing him. He's turned down a number of offers. It does look like he's going to become a Crystal Palace player, but this is in no way related to the Mark Gay deal because they've been looking to sign a young centre-back anyway. If Gay is to depart, they'll be looking to sign a Premier League-ready replacement, and Axel Disasi could be one that fits that bill. There's plenty that could happen between now and 7 p.m. I'm fairly sure Crystal Palace will be signing an attacking player as well. We wait to see what happens. It's going to be a very exciting day. It always is at Crystal Palace. They signed 4 players here on deadline day last summer. I don't think it'll be as busy, but plenty of uncertainty around Mark Gay, and they'll be looking to bring in more reinforcements as well.
And we'll be looking to you to keep us updated. Thanks, James.
Right, I want to get Charlie's thoughts on Mike Gay, because it's quite a tough one, this, isn't it? The owner will probably want to sell him to get the money in. The manager wants to keep him. What is better for Crystal Palace, the club? You keep Mark Gay, you risk losing him on a free, but you keep your momentum. They've had a great start to the season, great end to last season, or you cash in and you reinvest that money.
But what is, you say reinvest, but it's getting the right signing in, isn't it? And you're not only getting a ready-made centre-back for the Premier League, he's the leader, he's the captain, and that's a tough bit.
So what's the bigger risk?
I think they should keep him. I think they're going to try and keep him and see where we go. It depends how hard Liverpool push on that bit. I think they'll try and keep him. Look at European football also to offer. Yes, it's not Champions League, but they have got European football to offer. And I think it will be harder for them to try and replace him at such short notice now. So he's the captain, he's the leader, and ultimately if the manager's coming out and saying, I do not want to sell him, then that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, big time. Right. Coming up next, we are heading live to Brentford and we'll have the very latest on the future of Johan Wissa. And they are heavily linked with the move for Emiliano Martinez from Aston Villa. And is Anthony about to get his wish and leave Old Trafford? Let's cross live to our reporter Daniel Khan, who can bring us right up to date. Daniel, we had the breaking news about Anthony, but what can you tell us about the story?
Yeah, absolutely, Julia. Thank you very much. I mean, 3 years to the day, Anthony signed for Manchester United for £86 million from Ajax. It seems he is now on his way out of Manchester United on a permanent basis. An agreement has been reached with Real Betis over the permanent sale of Anthony, a deal worth just over £21 million. And Manchester United, as I understand it, also have a 50% net sell-on any future sales of Anthony if he is ever to leave Real Betis one day. And we told you last week that there was a broad agreement around a fee between Manchester United and Betis, but at that moment it didn't go any further because there were complications around his wage and overcompensation as well, whether United would contribute to any of that. But as I understand it, again, United aren't compensating Anthony in any way for this move to Real Betis. There's been a slight restructure to that agreement with Betis, and that is now in agreement between the two clubs. So Anthony looks like he is on his way out, expecting him to travel to Spain for a medical, and as well as incomings, if there are any today, Julie, I think United's focus is a lot on outgoings, and Anthony could just be the latest along the lines of the likes of Jadon Sancho, Tyrell Malacia. Still waiting official confirmation on Rasmus Højlund as well, on his move to Napoli as well.
Yeah, and if there is to be an incoming today, it would be a big one. United search for a new goalkeeper. Are they actually going to make a move for Aston Villa's Emiliano Martinez? And are you confident they can get the deal done?
Well, I think Manchester United have identified that it looks like they need to reinforce the goalkeeping area. I was at their game on Sunday against Fulham, Julia, and against Burnley, I should say. And Ruben Amorim said himself that to be a Manchester United goalkeeper right now is incredibly difficult. You look at Emiliano Martinez and also Sen Lamans, the goalkeeper at Royal Antwerp. I think Manchester United right now, as we believe, are just trying to decide internally which direction they're going to go and proceed in. Emiliano Martinez is someone they've explored through the summer, and clearly Emiliano Martinez himself knows of the interest because he was left out yesterday evening by Unai Emery on that game against Crystal Palace. Lamanso, the other option they could look down, is 23 years old in comparison, only had one senior year of playing professional football, being a number one in that sense. So very interesting, two very polarising different options. Emiliano Martinez, though, is tested and proven. He's won the World Cup. He's also been crowned goalkeeper of the year twice on occasion. So very interesting to see what Manchester United do. But I think they need to address that area because clearly it has made them suffer so far this season, Julia. And also you have to consider Andre Onana will be gone for a considerable amount of time with AFCON coming in December as well.
Yeah, thanks very much, Daniel. A reminder now of the big breaking news on deadline day. Liverpool and Newcastle have agreed a British record transfer for Alexander Isak. Sky Sports News understands Liverpool will pay a fixed fee of £125 million for the striker, who will begin his medical this morning. Isak has agreed a 6-year deal with the Premier League champions, and the deal eclipses the £115 million Chelsea paid Brighton for Moises Caicedo in the summer of 2023. Newcastle wanted £150 million to part with Isak, but their stance softened in recent weeks as Isak attempted to force a move.
They can get Gay and Isak through the door. I mean, they're two starting players, and Isak's one of the top centre-forwards in the world. He's a real player. He's the one player, Isak, that I've seen give Saliba and Gabriel and Van Dijk a real hard time over this last couple of seasons. I think he's really caused them problems. He's a different level player. With Gay coming in as well, I thought Konate did his best 78 minutes of the season as well, which was good for him because he's had a tough few weeks. For Liverpool to be on 9 points, the 2 games they've just had, and think that those two could be entering the building off the back end of the international break, they'll be absolutely buzzing and confident as hell.
OK, loads more, of course, on Alexander Isak throughout the day. Charlie Austin is our guest until 10 o'clock this deadline day. Right now, we're going to play a very simple game. It's called Hit or Miss. We're going to show you a big-name player that's been on the move this summer. Charlie's going to say whether it's going to be a hit or a miss. We can all understand that, can't we? And you're going to give you your reasons why as well. Let's start up with Florian Wirtz to Liverpool. Hit or miss, and why?
Hit. Liverpool have not played with number 10 for a long time now, probably since Philip Coutinho was there. So I think now he's going to find his form. Listen, a second half yesterday looked touch of class all over the pitch. So for me, he'll be a big hit. International break, he's got his 3 games in, he's bedding in, come back after the break, he'll be ready to go. OK. He's a hit. How about a guy called Benjamin Šeško? Very much in demand, wasn't he, Šeško? Ended up at Man United. Is this going to be a hit or a miss? He was in demand. But I think going off what's happened at Manchester United, what's happened over the recent weeks, why he hasn't been starting, what we see at Grimsby, I'm going to go miss. Right. I am, yeah. As much as that's what Man United want a centre-forward, we've seen their record so far. Rasmus Højlund, they've come there. Joshua Zirkzee not really took off. I don't see much difference in this guy either. Yeah, he hasn't trusted him very much, has he, in the first couple of games? No, he hasn't. But also, the alarming bit also, I know we can't get away from it, is number 10 penalty. Yeah. That's an alarming thing in itself. But that could be the manager making that decision, wanting to protect him, right? From what? That's the biggest thing. Protected from what? It's the damage was already done in the game to actually get into that situation. So, look, I think also his penalty record was really good. So for him to come there and be number 10, I think it was an eye-opener to a lot of people. OK. He's a miss, according to Charlie Austin. How about James Trafford back at Manchester City? Although he might have a bit more competition coming in for that number 1 spot. Is he going to be a hit or a miss there? Now what we're hearing this morning, at first I thought it'd be a hit. He'd been fantastic at Burnley, he'd been fantastic. And then he goes to Man City, although he was obviously heavily linked with Newcastle, wasn't he? He'd like to go in there, but he's gone there. I think he was going to cement himself as number 1. And now we're in the news that he's probably not. So I'm going to have to say miss, due to the fact if Donnarumma comes in, there's your number 1, and he no longer will be. Yeah, just a reminder that Edison are currently in talks with Fenerbahce, and that could mean Donnarumma coming in sensationally last minute to Man City. How about Alejandro Garnacho then? He's moved from Manchester United to Chelsea. I'm going to go hit. Yeah? I do, yeah. I think a lot of players leave Man United and seem to step it up. Listen, he's got talent, obvious talent, hasn't he? And he's shown it. The problem is he's only shown it at bit parts. I think go to Chelsea, new chapter, new lease of life, and I think he'll really kick on. Is he going to play regularly, though, looking at what they've got? I think he will. I think he will play. I think that kind of frees up Cole Palmer, and then you've got João Pedro obviously in the mix also, that will play. But I think he's someone that's going to go there and play. Also, they're going 4 competitions as well. They want to go deep in the Champions League, run the Premier League as long as possible and be in touch. Listen, they're still contenders. Like, don't forget about Chelsea. That's the biggest thing. So I think he'll be a hit.
OK, Garnacho hit to Chelsea. How about Jack Grealish? He started brilliantly, hasn't he, at Everton? Do you think that's going to continue?
I think so. I think everybody was pleased to see Jack move. Not move because to see him play more frequently, and I think the way he started at Everton's brilliant. And do you know what? The club is probably perfect timing to go to Everton in the new stadium, but also David Moyes as a manager is probably the perfect one also.
Yeah, well, 4 assists in 2 games.
Yeah.
Unbelievable start. Finally, Victor Gyökeres, you said the other week that he might be a bit of a flat track bully. Have you seen anything that's made you change your mind?
Played Man United, first game, didn't do a lot. Leeds scored 2, promoted team, and then yesterday, not a great game. I'm going to stand by where I am. Listen, if I'm wrong, I'll hold my hands up later on in the season, but for me, I think he's going to be a miss.
Do you think part of that is because Arsenal don't necessarily know how to play to his strengths yet?
Yes, that's the thing. But also, Arsenal have not played with number 9 for many years now. And I see them, they get in the wide areas and refuse to cross a couple of times because they've never had that vocal point there. So for me now, I'm going to stand by what I said earlier. I do think he'll be a miss. Will he score goals? Yes.
OK.
But I still don't think he's enough to get him over the line.
OK, so he could score 20 goals and he's still a flat track bully, is he?
Yeah.
Depends on who he scores against.
Yes, because what we're saying was against the lesser teams, and I know a lot of Arsenal fans were saying, yeah, that's where we want to be, and that's what's stopping us. But until you do it against the big boys, then I'll change my mind then.
OK, there you have it. Hits or misses with Charlie Austin.
It's been a busy morning already, and coming up next, we'll be live to Brighton for the latest on a potential big-name departure. Welcome back. Just over 10 hours left until the transfer window shuts, and it's going to be a big day at Brentford. After losing their manager and several key players this summer, will they ensure Johan Wisser stays at the club past the deadline? Well, we can head to their training ground now, and Eleanor Roper is there for us. Eleanor, Wisser's made it very clear he wants to leave Brentford. Will he get his wish today, do you think?
Well, I think a lot needs to happen between now and 7 p.m. if his wish is to come true. As you mentioned there, he's been very vocal about the fact that he wants to leave the club. He took to his Instagram account over the weekend. He's accused the club of unduly holding him back, of rejecting what he describes as fair offers. But Brentford have been clear about what the parameters are. They say that they have to receive a fair amount of money for the player, and also they have to have a replacement. And that's what's key here. They have rejected so far 2 bids from Newcastle, not meeting their desired amount. But crucially, there isn't anyone, as we understand, there isn't a clear target for them today if Visser is to leave. We wait to see if Newcastle come back with an increased bid, which they could now well do. Brentford had been in for Max Bayer of Borussia Dortmund. That, as we understand, is not moving forward, not going to amount to anything. And we wait to see whether they can find today another potential replacement for Visser. If not, you'd have to say he's staying. But as we know, with deadline day, anything can happen.
Thanks, Ellie.
Right, well, we talked earlier, Charlie, about the way that Alexander Isak's behaved will set a precedent for players to come. Downing Tools worked for Isak. It looks like he's going to get his big move. Will it work for Johan Wisser?
Will it work? Well, only time will tell, won't it? But he's just followed the same suit as what Alexander Isak's done. It worked for him, so why won't it work for Johan Wisser? I think the tough thing will be for him is that if it doesn't happen, it's not the players, like I said before, but it's going back to the hierarchy that he needs to mend the broken bridges. That's obviously happened. Will he get his move? I think it's probably will, but ultimately it's the replacement side, isn't it? Brentford have not really, other than the German, the Bayer Leverkusen lad, there's no one else really they've been linked with, have they? So that'll be the tough one. I think that's for a lot of clubs, isn't it? There's all right being players being linked and can go, that's getting that replacement in.
Yeah, they've already lost key players. Norgaard's gone and Burma's gone. They've lost the manager as well, Thomas Frank. Do you worry for Brentford if this deal goes through?
Yes, because you start thinking where the goal is going to come from. You've taken the nucleus of the squad over the years that Thomas Frank's built out of it, and then all of a sudden it starts to fall apart. And the problem is now we see the Premier League how tough it is to get 3 points, and the promoted teams have got 3 points on the board, and it's only going to build up. You have to build up with the international breaks, and that kind of breaks it up, but sometimes that can be a bit of a hindrance.
OK, let's get to Nottingham Forest, because could today be a day for crunch talks between Nuno Espirito Santo and the owner, Evangelos Marinakis. Anton Tolui is at the training ground for us. Morning to you, Anton. Nuno didn't want to address things, did he, after that big defeat yesterday? But is today the perfect opportunity for him?
Look, I'm pretty sure Nuno Espirito Santo will not want this hanging over him and the club going into the international break, because this all started, 2.5 weeks ago, when Nuno Espirito Santo came out and said he felt his squad was imbalanced and that it still needed a lot of work. Well, since then, in 2.5 weeks, Nottingham Forest have gone on a spending spree. I'll try and go through all the names and try and remember them all, because there was a lot of them. Amari Hutchinson came in, James McAtee came in on the same day, Arno Kalimawendo came in, Douglas Luiz, Nicolas Savona came in as well. And last night they confirmed the signing of Brazilian goalkeeper João Victor. They're expected to do another bit of business today as well, bringing in another player from Botafogo, Brazilian Lefa Cuibana. He's passed his medical, expected to agree terms and sign today as well. Add to that, they signed Igor Jesus and Jai Cunha early in the window as well. Their squad is a lot more stacked than it was at the beginning of the window. Yes, the players were in as early as Nuno Espirito Santo wanted, but again, Nottingham Forest doing their business early and doing their business comprehensively. Interesting to see what the tone of those talks will be then. If Nuno Espirito Santo wasn't happy with his squad a couple of weeks ago, surely he will be now. And from the owner's point of view, he must be thinking he's given the coach everything he would have wanted, which would have been extra disappointing considering their performance and crushing defeat to West Ham today. So a big day here in Nottingham Forest for two reasons. One, because it's deadline day, and two, because of the situation with the owner and the head coach.
Great stuff. Thank you, Anton.
Well, this just in, West Ham defender Naif Aguerd has given permission to speak to Marseille and to undergo a medical. It's thought to be a permanent transfer. West Ham are looking at Charlie Cresswell from Toulouse to replace him.
Now to Manchester City, and we understand that talks are ongoing over goalkeeper Ederson joining Fenerbahce. However, the Brazilian will only be allowed to leave if City manage to complete a deal for Gianluigi Donnarumma. The Italian is being lined up as Ederson's potential replacement. Ederson is in the final year of his contract. Meanwhile, Jamie Vardy is in Italy ahead of a proposed move to Cremonese. He verbally agreed to join the Serie A club yesterday after turning down the chance to go to Feyenoord. He's agreed a one-year contract with an option of a further year if Cremonese stay up. He's in Milan right now for a medical.
Grazie. More breaking for you now. Manchester United forward Antony is expected to travel to Spain for a medical with Real Betis. An agreement has been reached between the clubs for his permanent sale for a total of £21.7 million. That figure is broken up into an initial 19 million payment plus 4.3 million in add-ons. There is also a 50% net sell-on in the deal.
Right, stay with us, because coming next we'll be talking all things Alexander Isak, and we'll be live to Manchester for the latest on Manchester United's pursuit of a goalkeeper.